I have been using this book for many years. I read from it every morning and every night. And let's see what Heart Thoughts has to say to this group today. Ooh, interesting. Be kind and gentle and comforting with your inner child as you uncover and release old negative messages within you. Say all my changes are comfortable, easy, and fun. I love myself totally in the now. Love is the biggest eraser there is. Love erases even the deepest imprinting, because love goes deeper than anything. If your childhood imprinting was very strong, and you keep saying it's all their fault, I can't change, then you stay stuck. Do a lot of mirror work. Love yourself in the mirror from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, dressed and naked. Look into your eyes and love you and your inner child within. Thus goeth the weekend.
Perfect choice.
Life chose.
Life chose well. Are you all excited? You look so excited. It's very sweet, all the smiling faces. We
and we
appreciate
certainly
that.
welcome the men. We are so glad to have you here. We love you.
You're very fond of the men, right?
Oh, I love everybody, including the men.
No, I think that is a really important point, actually. We like to acknowledge the men when they show up. We need more men, and we really appreciate. I can assure you I'm speaking.
But we welcome. We don't need, but we welcome.
We
don't need anything because life gives us everything. We have had so much fun together, writing the book, teaching.
The teaching never ends, people. No, it's continuous, and it's wonderful. It is, trust me, that's just the beginning. Yes, so we welcome the men. And I know I speak for every woman in the room when I say thank you to the men for being here and for wanting to experience this. I've found over the last couple of years more and more men are participating, which is wonderful, just really wonderful. So let's just give the men another round of applause, shall we? Yes, yes. All right, so there's just a few things I would like to say as we get started. I made myself a couple of notes. We want you to just relax and enjoy the weekend. You know, just make yourselves comfortable, and this whole weekend is about really loving ourselves and really claiming this creative power we all have to create an exceptional life for ourselves. And in doing so, we naturally begin to influence the lives of those around us in a loving and wonderful way. I want to invite some of you. Is there anyone here who really likes to take copious notes? Don't be shy, raise those hands. Just like me, I do that too. You know how Louise talked about what will make this experience special and what will make it valuable to you is your ability to be present. So I invite those of you who are like me, who feel like you want to just take every single note, to also recognize that it's the right brain that has access to wisdom and insight. And when we're writing and thinking, we are really engaging the left brain. So it would be really lovely if every now and then you could just take a deep breath and affirm. I have this affirmation I've used for years. Everything I need to know, I remember everything I need to know when I need to know it. And it has never failed me. You can write that down.
You have permission.
I remember everything I need to know exactly when I need to know it. Because what will help you to really change your life over this weekend is a piece or two of wisdom more than anything else. We can gather information for the intellect, and that's fine. But when you're open, suddenly you'll have a flash of insight, or a piece of wisdom, or you'll hear somebody say something and you'll think, oh, that's it. That's the piece I needed to hear for the next stage of my journey. So I just want to invite you to be present for that. I also want to just say something briefly about resistance. You know, we all have a subconscious mind that is really invested in us staying right where we are, because it keeps us safe. And on some level, we all want to be safe. Human beings want to be safe. But in order to change and grow, you need to be willing to move beyond where you are now. So sometimes what will happen is when we embark on a new journey or we come to a workshop and we decide that we're going to learn something new, the subconscious will introduce resistance to our experience. So for me, for example, when I will attend a workshop or be a student, I know in the beginning when Louise and I were working on the book, I had to really keep this part of me in check. I have a know-it-all that is the form of my resistance. So I'll be listening to someone and I'll think, oh, I already know that. I know that. Or, that's not new. Or, no, you should do it this way. Or you should say it that way. And that's just my resistance. It's the part of me. Can anyone identify with that part? Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I feel so much better now.
Control is safety, we think.
Yes, yes. There's a piece of wisdom, people. Control is safety, we think. So that's part of, the know-it-all is a form of control, and it's a part of resistance. Sometimes the resistance will show up with critiquing what you're hearing. Oh, that's not right, or that's not what I believe, or, you can think of it as the subconscious just trying to shut the door. Sometimes resistance will show up as just spacing out. You'll be here, and all of a sudden you'll come back to the room and you'll think, what were they just talking about? I missed the last 10 minutes. I was somewhere else. And sometimes that's the way the subconscious will protect itself. Think about how your resistance shows up for you. And just invite that part of you to be here today. Just put your arm around it. That's what I like to think. I just sort of put my arm around it and say, hi there, resistance. Nice to see you. You just sit back and relax. We're going to have a good time. And don't worry, I'll keep you safe. I'll make sure that we take steps in a time that's comfortable and easy. Right now, we're just gaining the wisdom and the insight that we need. So you just want to notice that. And sometimes the resistance will be a preoccupation with the room. It's too warm in here. And you'll find yourself saying that over and over and over again so that you don't have to be present. Instead, you can just be complaining in your mind about how warm it is. And I can assure you, based on what I've learned from Louise,
it will get warmer.
It'll get warmer.
The molecules hear it. Mm-hmm. We don't want to waste this weekend playing Ain't It Awful. We know everybody has a problem, something you'd like to heal. But let's not dive into details of it, because that's going to waste time, and then it brings the whole group down. When I was working with people with AIDS in the 1980s, and as awful as we knew that disease was, we did not play Ain't It Awful ever in the group. I insisted that we spend the entire time using in a positive manner. Everything we did was for the healing, the betterment, the enrichment, the unfoldment of the people there, so that it could be a positive group. And that's why it was so very popular. Mm-hmm. So we don't want to do that. Problems, come from nowhere. And if you allow them, they will go back to nowhere. They sort of float in, and if you don't hang on to them with a death grip, they'll float out. It's like a thought that passes through your mind. And I've learned to say when a problem bounces into my world, okay, all is well, everything's working out for my highest good. And out of this experience, only good will come. And I am safe, or we are safe. And if it's challenge, if it's a real challenge, I may say that a couple hundred times a day. And you go, oh my God, 200. Well, if you're worrying, can't you do at least 400 times a day of going over and over the same thought? And see, everything we're doing is an affirmation. Every thought we think and every word we speak is an affirmation of what you are choosing at the moment to believe about life. And whatever you're choosing to believe, life will say, okay, that's what they want, and then you get more of it. So what we're going to learn to do today, or enforce more of what you are already doing, is how to become aware of what is going on inside of your mind, moment to moment, so that you can get in there and not curse yourself, oh, there I go again, but to say, oh, that is not supporting me. Let me eliminate it, dissolve it, and release it so that I can put in thoughts that support me. So we're going to so-called break some habits, except I don't use that term. I like to say dissolve, because if you break something, there are all these pieces around that you have to deal with. But if you dissolve something, it's gone forever. And then you can move on to the next. So this is going to be a fun 2 days. Mm-hmm. I want you to have sort of this thought in your mind. Do not try to be where you are not. Please, just for this weekend, be in this room, be in your body, be in your mind. You can go back to all the other stuff later. You can go back to the past when you leave here. You can go back, you can go to the future. But just while you're here, let's bring awareness. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, as Louise said, affirmations are either affirming what you want more of in your life or releasing what you'd like less of. So the way we'd like to begin this part is to just first invite you to take a little time to think about even just one thing you'd like to draw into your life, one thing you'd like more of, and one thing you'd like less of.
Or something new you'd like to experience.
Yes, or something new. So take a moment, take out pen and paper. And this is very much aligned with, when Louise asked you earlier to think about what you hope to gain from these 2 days. Sometimes it's easy to think in terms of what new thing would you like to draw into your life, or what would you like more of, and what would you like to release? So we're going to have you answer those 2 questions. What would you like to add? What would you like to release?
Mm-hmm. Often we have to release in order to add.
Yes. So just take a moment and jot down a few things that come to mind. And when you have at least one answer for both, look up and smile. Good. Okay, so what we'd like you to do is we'd like you to turn to someone you don't know.
If possible.
If possible. And just share with one another something that you'd like to bring into your life and something you'd like to release. Mm-hmm. So let's start with choosing a partner, and the person with the shortest hair can speak first. All right, so you all had a chance to share with one another. You seem to like each other very much. So it'll be interesting for you to just notice, as we go through the weekend, when we talk about affirmations and things like that, to return to what would you like to bring into your life and what would you like to release, because you can use those to create affirmations around. And we'll talk more about that too at some point. But living an exceptional life, living a good life begins, and I have learned this from Louise over and over and over again so strongly, really begins with loving yourself. And for some people it's quite a challenge. It takes practice and commitment. And there are very specific things you can do to help develop that warm and loving and comfortable and safe and exciting relationship with yourself. And it is the single most important investment we make, because when you love yourself, you allow good things into your life. You expect good things to come into your life.
Like you.
Oh, Lulu. So sweet.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So that's what we want for all of you. We want you to just be in this state of loving yourself so that you just draw to you beauty and love and abundance and good health and healing and all of the things that are rightfully ours, that are our natural state. And I love, you said, the last time we were teaching together, you said, you're living with yourself all day long, you might as well enjoy it.
Day after day, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year.
Lifetime
do you
after
love
lifetime.
it? I mean, is it a great experience?
Yes.
Or do you dread tomorrow?
Yeah. So do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things you do to love yourself? Because I know people learn from that.
Well, I start first thing in the morning. I decide to just thank my bed for waking up and for sleeping with me all night and making it comfortable and easy and nice. And then I thank myself for being there. And remind myself that this is going to be a super wonderful day, another super wonderful day. And everything we do will just be fine. And if there's a special event coming up of any sort, I'll talk about that, you know. Like this is going to be, today is going to be an absolutely fabulous day. And everything we need will unfold in this room easily and effortlessly. We're all going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to have deep insights. And whatever we're meant to say, we will say. Mm-hmm. And whatever you are meant to say, you will say. And it'll just be a fabulous, well, that's for today. Now, tomorrow I'll start again. But that's, and you know, and then the next thing I do is go into the bathroom and look in my eyes and say, Louise, I love you. I really, really love you. And for many people, especially if you've never done it before, it sounds dumb. And it's very awkward to do because you do look at all the wrong things. You don't look into your eyes, you look at that gray hair or that, you know, little bulge or the wrinkle. And that's not loving yourself. That's picking on yourself. And it doesn't make you feel good. I like to begin the day in a way that really empowers me. And I've been doing it a long time, so I'm pretty good at it. Though sometimes I goof and I can wake up hysterical like anybody else. But I know how to pull myself out of it as quickly as possible. So that's just one way of starting your day. You know, the way you start your day is the way you're going to live your day. And the way you live your day is really the way you live your life. So really start in a way that supports you. That's one way. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Share a few of yours.
Yes. Well, you know, about a year and a half or so ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, I lose track of time because I'm much more present and future focused than past. But I realized that sometimes I would get up in the morning and I would jump out of bed like toast out of a toaster, you know, pop right out of bed. And I would have a list of things I needed to do in my head. And I really believed, like a lot of us do, I really believed that if I could just get my to-do list done, then I could relax and enjoy my life. Does anyone else feel that way? Yes. And I have learned to enjoy my life first, because the to-do list never ends. Those of us with busy minds who wake up thinking about what needs to be done will keep creating things to be done. Sort of like years ago when I was first working with a coach when I was training to be a coach 18 years ago, He said to me one day, "Cheryl, you're such an amazing problem solver." And I was so proud. I sat up straighter and I said, "Well, thank you very much. I really prided myself on being a great problem solver." And he said to me, "And you will continue to create problems to solve for the rest of your life." Oh, the truth of that statement went right to my heart. And it's the same thing with those of us who are industrious or like to get things done or have an active to-do list. You'll just keep creating to-dos. And so I decided that I would start my day in a very different way. And I've added so much since Louise and I have worked on this book, like thanking my bed in the morning and really planning my day intentionally in the morning from the first thoughts when I wake up. But at that time, what I would do is I decided there was no more rushing to my computer to check email or listening to voicemail messages first thing in the morning. I have an office in my home. That the beginning of my day was going to be all about me and my cat, who is an important part of my day, and my husband, who, because this is being taped...
second, you notice.
I was about to fix it, Lulu, and... No, my husband's always teasing me. He'll say to me, "I think my cat," we have a gray cat, and his name is Poupon, for Gray Poupon. My husband always says, "I think you love that cat more than me." I say, "Don't be ridiculous, honey. Of course I love you more than Poupon. I just cuddle with him in the mornings." Because my husband goes to bed late and gets up later. I get up early in the morning. I'm an early riser. And so I just decided I would get up, make myself a cup of tea, go and sit in a favorite area of our home. And for one whole year, prior to working on the book with Louise, every day when I woke up, what I would do is sit down and create a list of spontaneous affirmations, positive statements. And at first I was a little clunky and awkward with it, but I just, it was my journal. Nobody was going to read it. And I would write, "I love my body. I love my life. I'm happy and content," like whatever would come to me. "Abundance flows into my life. I'm filled with joy every moment of every day." I mean, anything I could think of, I would just fill a whole page in the journal. And my cat would often come sit on my lap while I was doing that. And I would snuggle with him, and I would just keep writing. And that's how I set the tone for my day, with all of these positive thoughts. And over time, as I did that every single day, I began to perfect the affirmations for myself so that they felt really good. The kind of affirmation you read and you think, "Yes, yes, oh, I would love for that to happen. I can feel it happening already." So I would do these affirmations, and I would find that certain patterns and themes would emerge. And I was repeating certain affirmations and perfecting certain affirmations, and it really helped to start my day. And it was such an act of self-love, you see, because in the morning, instead of making my morning about everybody else, trying to take care of everybody else so that I could then be there for me, I decided I would be there for me first. And guess what happened? I took better care of everybody else later in the day. Much better care. Because instead of getting to the middle part of my morning, let's say in my office, in a state of resentment because I was frustrated dealing with all of these different things, I felt good. I felt more content. I felt happier. And so if I got on the phone with someone, I was much more pleasant to be around. And my husband, Michael, would tell you I was much more pleasant to be around as I created this ritual in the morning. So I appreciate the fact that we both work, we have offices in our home. You might need to go to a job, but even, I remember you said, even if you give yourself 10 minutes where you sit in a favorite place, you do something that's comforting to you, like have a cup of tea or cuddle with a pet or cuddle with your partner.
Or pet yourself.
Pet yourself. I love that idea. Yes. Keep going. That was good. We were feeling comfortable just watching you do that. Weren't you? It's like...
Do your own version.
Yes, yes. Doing something in the morning that is just for you and starting your day that way and filling that ritual with good feeling thoughts is a lovely thing to do. Yes. So one of the other things that I do to love myself. You know, I've paid attention over the years to the things that bring me moments of joy. We all have them. So certainly playing with a pet, sitting with a pet, sitting with my cat brings me a moment of joy. Cuddling with my husband in the morning brings me a moment of joy. Being in nature, being in any kind of nature, brings me massive joy. I know when we were driving to South Devon I'd never been down south, and as we were driving to the Hazelwood House, I was just so overwhelmed with the beauty of the English countryside. I felt like I was getting massive doses of joy, and I was storing them up.
I said, you've got to come to the country. You've got to come.
Yes,
And
she
experience
arranged
it.
this trip, and I mean, and of course, driving down these little roads was spectacular. Seeing the cows are adorable with the long hair. I love them. Right, Nancy? The wild ponies. I know that you probably are. I mean, I was just storing up sheep right at the side of the road. I mean, I'm driving by waving to them, you know? Or the cows just sitting. I mean, the cows and the sheep look so happy, right? And
Well,
the
they're eating
vistas were
grass.
beautiful. These, you know, what are the things that bring you joy?
Little things. Little
Yes.
things can bring you lots and lots of joy. It doesn't have to always be big.
And so what I would do is I had a special section in a journal called Moments of Joy. And every time I would have an experience like that, and I did it at Hazelwood House when I went to sleep that night, I took out my computer and I started to write down what were the things. Lily, the little dog, right? Little Jack Russell Terrier. Adorable dog, one brown and black eye, one white eye. Looking out over the valley, you know, looking at the one gorgeous rose that was sitting on the top of the vine in the front of the house, and I took a picture of it. Making a mental note and writing it down. These moments of joy start to hold clues. You begin to see patterns of what do you need in order to give yourself gifts of love all day long. One of the things you said to me years ago when we didn't know each other well, you said something about you love to live in a place with a, did you call
Long view.
A long
I love
view.
long views.
Yes.
And every time I move, I get a long view. It's incredible.
And I remember you saying that, and I remember thinking, wow, it never even occurred to me to think about looking for a long view, whether I'm staying somewhere, or renting an apartment, or buying a home. And then when my husband and I moved into our new home 4 years ago, we have a very long view. And I swear there's not a day that doesn't go by where I think, this is such an act of self-love for me to be able to look at this view. You know, what do you look at? Is there a piece of art in your home that brings you joy? Or photographs that just feel like a moment of joy for you to look at them?
Another thing I do in the house is I have lots of little seating arrangements in various places of the house. So any place you sit, you get a view. And then you go to the next place and you get a different view. And you get a different view. And in one house, I have all these different wonderful views to look at. But you have to sort of set it up like that. When you sit down, what do you want to look at? What do you want to see? How can you make that beautiful for yourself?
Really, I mean, Louise has done that. It's like an intentional plan to create moments of beauty for herself because she values beauty so much.
I do that in the garden too. Lots of little places so you get different views.
Yes.
And it's nice to have nice furniture, but you can do it without having nice furniture. You know, you can just aim things in the right way.
Now, one of the great things is when you stop to think about what are those moments of joy for you, and you write them down, and then you start sharing them with people in your life, you find out, you hear about their moments of joy, and you suddenly learn, oh, yes, I love to listen to music as well. That brings me joy. Or I also love going out and looking at the beautiful windows, the display windows on a city street might bring you a moment of joy. Or having an afternoon to yourself, an hour to yourself where you have the phone shut off and you're not going to be speaking with anyone. That's going to give you moments of joy. Other people's moments of joy are often similar to the things that would bring us joy. It's just that most of us are so busy, we're so disconnected from what makes us happy, let alone keeping track of it and then giving ourselves the intentional gift of it. You know, when Louise talks about creating different views in her home, I was really struck when I first went to her home. These are intentional places to sit that were set up based on what makes her feel good. And this is all about, I loved very early on when we were writing the book, Louise said, I think I said this at the keynote, and this was really simple and profound to me. She said, you know, so many of us spend our whole life wanting a relationship because then we'll feel good, or we want more money, then we'll feel good. We want to pay off debt, and then we'll feel good. Oh, if I could just find my passion or do work that I love, then I would feel good. She said, but you know, if we could just first make the goal feeling good, everything else would take care of itself.
It would find our way to us much quicker and easier.
I mean, really, take that in for a moment. What if your whole, just notice the feeling you get in your body when I say this. What if you dedicated a majority of your time first to what you can think, say, and do that will make you feel good, just to feeling good? Now, when Louise first said that, I remember sitting there thinking, what if my whole life was about learning to make myself feel good? My very first reaction, quite frankly, was, what a selfish perspective.
Yes.
I mean, it went against everything that I was raised to believe. It really is about changing. It really changes the framework for how we live. But here's the thing. When you make feeling good your priority, you do so much more good in the world.
Just being around you.
Just being around you.
A joy for other people.
Yes.
You know, you can become like a magnet. They want to be there.
Yes, absolutely. And you draw good experiences to you. You draw experiences that allow you to bring your best to the world, that allow you to express your gifts and talents more fully, therefore being of service to others in a much more authentic and effective way. Because, you know, here's the truth for me. For years, I really believed that I was being there for others out of the goodness of my heart. But the reality was I was being there for others because out of guilt, obligation, I thought that I was supposed to do that. And underneath that was a slow burning resentment that I rarely spoke about to anyone. And usually the people closest to me, like my husband, got the bite of that resentment when it got to be too much.
And other people saw that you'd do anything they asked you to, so they did.
That's right.
And again, and again, and again.
That's right.
You've got to train people how to treat you. It's
That is also a profound act of self-love.
yes.
Teaching
and,
people.
And the thing is, what's so fascinating about it is you don't have to say to people, you must do this to me or treat me this way. No, you start deciding in your mind how you want to be treated, how you will accept being treated.
Yes.
What is important to you? Sometimes you have to tell people how to treat you, but not always. Usually just the affirmations will do it.
So let's take a few moments, and I would love to do two things.
Yes.
I would love for you all to just take a few moments and think about the moments of joy you've experienced in your life. It could be this morning. It could be yesterday. It might be a year ago or 10 years ago. We're not talking about the big things like, oh, when I took a trip to wherever. We're talking about the little moments where, you know,
When you first saw Poupon.
yes, when I first saw my little cat. When I first saw my husband pick up the little cat that he didn't want and put the cat to his chest. And I will remember, this was 4.5 years ago, I will remember till this day the look in his eyes when he looked down at Poupon and Poupon looked up at him and then promptly fell asleep in his hands. And Michael looked at me and said, I think this is our cat. But he had this joy, this loving presence in his eyes I had never seen before in the 12 or 13 years I had known Michael. And that was a moment of joy for me as well. So it's those moments of joy. You know, sometimes you'll be listening to music and you'll be thinking about something and a song will come on and it just opens your heart and tears spring to your eyes and you feel that, just that moment of pure bliss. Those are the kinds of little things we're talking about. So we want to give you a few moments to write them down, and then we're going to invite some of you up to the microphone to just briefly share some examples so that we can all benefit from your examples.
Write down 6 if you can.
Good. 6. And when you have 6, you can look up and smile. Okay, so let's treat each other to some examples. If we could just have some people come right up to the microphone here.
Who wants to just share their little list?
Yeah,
Come on.
great. Excellent.
Yes, we'll just take
And
half a
everybody
dozen
wants
or
to
so.
pay attention, because when you hear something and you think, oh, that's a moment of joy for me, write it down.
Oh, I just brought my list. Okay,
Go ahead.
Photographing the sunrise on a beautiful morning walk.
Good.
That's it.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Claudia. One of the greatest moments in my life are when my children walk into the room. I see the lovely faces, and they're so beautiful. Another thing is seeing my husband smile in a certain way. And having said that, a moment of joy for me is when everybody is out of the house and it's so quiet. And I say to myself, listen, nothing.
Yes. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rose from Belgium, and I enjoy my moment of happiness now is that my husband is here. For the first time, we follow a training together, and this is so important for me, and I love him very much.
Did you have to drag him?
One moment. I just want to say to the husband, what's your first name, Mr. Husband?
What's your name?
What's his name? Mark.
Mark, okay.
I just really want you to take that in, because I can feel her joy. It means more to her than you know. And this can be a moment of joy for you too, to really, really get that, wow, this step that I've taken means more to her than I realize. And because I love her, I'm so happy that I've given her this gift. Yes, really lovely. Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I had ME when my children were quite young. So now when certain things catch you off guard that you hear them say or do really touch me. And I think it was a couple of weeks ago, my 4-year-old son was on the phone to his grandma, and he was telling her how his 6-year-old sister had managed to swim the channel from England to France. When in fact what had actually happened at school, all of the children within the school had done enough swimming added together that they'd all managed to swim the channel. And so for me, just overhearing the confidence of him telling his grandma how his sister had actually swum the channel really touched me. It made me smile.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. A moment of joy. So let this list of 6 begin to be your starting point, where you can return to this list and add other moments of joy as time goes on, so that you can start to intentionally give yourself these gifts, these little moments of joy on a regular basis. You know, they exist all around us all the time, and they usually cost very little, if anything at all. You know, going for a lovely walk doesn't cost anything except some of your time. Smiling at a stranger and getting a smile back doesn't cost anything. I am so enjoying my conversations with the cab drivers here. Nothing like,
Yes.
for me, nothing like my States experience. I mean, they're so friendly and so
And bright.
happy and
And
inviting.
they know where they're going.
and they know where they're going. They
We
really-
don't have that in the States.
I know.
Anybody can turn up in a city and just want to be a cab
Yes.
driver. And they turn to you and say, how do you get there?
I know I was having a conversation with a cab driver last night about that. But it's really, I've had moments of joy in a cab talking with a cab driver. And so we want to bring your attention to it so that you notice them, you capture them in writing, so that you can literally go to this list, which I do. I go to my list. I go to the back of the journal, which is now several pages, and I say, let's see. What moment of joy am I going to give myself today? Or in the next hour? Or the next 5 minutes? And I'm always surprised at how easy it is to forget the things that matter most to our soul.
That's because we're always saying, don't forget. And I like to turn that into, please remember. Then you
Yes.
remember.
Yes, absolutely. So let me just look at the time here. Why don't we just take a 10 or 15 minute break?
Okay.
And then we'll come back and we'll
All
start
right.
with the mirror work.
Yes,
How's that?
1 second though. I just want to say something that brings joy to my heart. I used to do teacher trainings for a long time. People would come and I would teach them what I knew and could do. And I haven't been able to do that for several years. But there is somebody here that runs the worldwide Louise Hay teacher training groups. And there are teacher trainings all over the world. And I just want to introduce you, so if you would like to on a break or during lunch or whatever, you could speak to her and get information. This is Patricia Crane. Would you stand up, please?
There she is.
She is an incredible teacher, and you can take teacher trainings or you can learn to become a teacher so you can teach other people. And it is some of the most rewarding work in the world. Are there any teacher trainers in here, teachers? Yes,
Oh, look
see,
at
we have
this.
some right here. Yes,
Look
okay.
at this,
All right,
yes.
let's take a break, 15 minutes.
Great,
That
15
means
minutes and we'll be back. So, so in keeping with the conversation about loving yourself and how loving yourself is the foundation of what we're speaking about, and giving yourself the gift of starting your day in a loving way, which we'll talk more about, and also looking at what are the moments of joy that you can incorporate into your life very intentionally so that you send the message to yourself that you're paying attention and you care about yourself and you want yourself to feel good. Along with that is the beauty of mirror work. And this is the queen of mirror work. So with that, I'm passing the mirror to you.
Yes. How many people do mirror work on a daily basis? Okay, a few. That's good. I'm sure you're getting results. Yes. Okay, let's just dive in. I know you all have this little tiny mirror somewhere. It's a lovely little mirror. You know, you can put it right in your breast, right in your bra, and have it handy. And men can find another place to put it. Be creative, as long as it's handy. Let's just take a look at what we see in the mirror. We're practically all there now.
Yes?
That's acceptable.
I stole that from someone over here. Thank you.
Just breathe. I want you to say to yourself your name. I love you. I really, really love you. Louise, say it with me. Louise, I love you. I really, really love you. I love you. I really, really love you. I love you. I really, really love you. How does that feel? It feels strange. Good, wonderful. We're nice and honest. Yes, and it will feel strange. It's a beginning point. Yes. Hard to do. How many are hard to do? We're not asking you to come up here and say it.
Yet.
Though we
Be careful, you never know with her.
No, it is. It's a new thing. You probably haven't done it before. But what we're really trying to do is to connect with the inner child within, who has been neglected for so very long. Most of us, when we look in a mirror, we criticize ourselves, we make fun of ourselves, we say derogatory things to ourselves. It's a habit. And what we want you to do is to start connecting with that inner child within you that wants so much to be loved and hasn't been for perhaps years and years and years and years, and maybe never when it was a child. I know this is a tough one to stay, but if it's too tough to start with, you can start with something like, Louise, I'm willing to learn to like you. Not quite so threatening. So I want you to, this is something I want you to do a lot. First thing in the morning, I want you to get in the habit of having your little mirror with you, whipping it out at any time, or any time you pass a mirror, say something nice to yourself. For instance, you have a whole slew of things you say.
Yes, thanks to Louise. Yeah. And I have, when I had visited Louise's house, I went upstairs to her office. She took me up to show me her office, and she had this beautiful desk, and she had this lamp on like an accordion, a cord, and she had a mirror clasped to it. And so I said to her, "Oh, is this where you put on your makeup?" and she looked at me and she said, "Why would I put my makeup on at my desk?" And instantly I thought, oh, and she said, "That's for mirror work, so that I can say nice things to myself all day long." Well, that hadn't even occurred to me. In the book prior to this, in The Art of Extreme Self-Care, I dedicated a whole chapter to what happened when I had done mirror work for 30 days. Now, so I had already been doing mirror work, and when I first began, I thought it was silly, and it didn't feel authentic. I would look in the mirror and I would say, "I love you, Cheryl. I really, really love you." And I found that I was automatically focused on, the brows that needed to be plucked or the wrinkles that I hadn't seen before, like you said earlier. But I stayed with it. And I stayed with it because this is one of the exercises that Louise has always talked about. It's one of the first exercises she'll mention. If I call her because I have a friend who's in trouble and I want to talk to her about some suggestions, the first thing she'll say to me is, "Well, I'd get her a mirror, my dear." And so when I was writing The Art of Extreme Self-Care, I thought, I heard Louise say it several times when we were doing a television interview together, and I thought, if this woman is taking her time in front of millions of people and the one message she wants to get across is that doing mirror work is the single most effective thing you could do, I need to take it seriously. And I went home and I made a decision that for 30 days, every time I saw my reflection anywhere, I would start to say, "I love you, Cheryl. I really, really love you." And in the beginning, it did feel foolish, and I felt embarrassed. There didn't even need to be anyone in the room, and I felt embarrassed. Like I thought somebody was going to sneak up on me, But I stayed with it.
Cat.
The cat, yes. Who loves himself very well, I might add. Such a teacher in that way. When I was driving in my car and I looked in the rearview mirror, I would say, "I love you, Cheryl. I really, really love you." If I were walking down the street and I saw my reflection in a window of a building, "I love you, Cheryl. I really, really love you." And it was amazing. By the end of, for me, probably the first week, it started to become very comfortable. The awkwardness went away. And by the end of the second week, I noticed that I was seeing love everywhere. And that not only was I feeling more loving toward myself, but I was feeling more loving to other human beings I came in contact with. And my husband did say I was much better to be around. And by the end of 30 days, it was a well-rooted habit. Now, when I went to Louise's office and saw the mirror on her desk, it never occurred to me to give a mirror a prominent place in my office. So as soon as I came home from California, I ran out and I got myself a beautiful little makeup mirror. I went to, a five and dime store and picked one up and brought it back and put it on my desk. And now I have this mirror on my desk. And sometimes if I'm on a conference call, I'll look in the mirror and wink at myself. And other times, especially if suddenly I'm having a bad moment, I'll look in the mirror and I'll say, I love you. I'm here for you. All is well. But then it got really fun. And sometimes now I look in the mirror and I say things like, how'd you get so cute? Right?
See, that'll bring a bright spot to your day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or I'll look in the mirror and I'll say things like, I can't think of anyone I'd rather be with than you.
You are amazingly fantastic.
Yes. I mean, I get chills when I say that one. You see, and you want to come up with fun things that you can say, meaningful things you can say to yourself. Look at those eyes. You have the best eyes in the world. Or sometimes I'll look into the mirror and I'll say, you're one of the smartest women I know, if I'm in the middle of doing business. Or I'll think it if I'm on an interview or something. You're one of the smartest women I know. Or I always have your back. I'm here for you. And if you do it enough, what starts to happen is the mirror becomes a friend instead of an enemy. And the person in that mirror becomes your most powerful friend instead of an enemy.
The reason I start you with I love you, I really, really love you, it's because it's the hardest thing to say. And if you can break through that, and it took you a week, so
Yes.
that's not bad at all.
Yes.
Just saying it whenever she could. She started to feel, a connection. And by 2 weeks, her life was shifting. And by the end of the month, things were looking differently.
Yes.
So if you can do that, and especially the first thing in the morning is the hardest time, because we all look not at our best. Mm-hmm. But if you think about the fact that you're talking to a little child inside, mm-hmm. you're not talking to that adult who's going to be so glamorous in an hour or something. You're talking to the little one.
Yes.
It's sort of easier to do. And once you can break through that first big thing where you feel stupid, things will start to move rather quickly. And then you get into it and you can do the sort of affirmations she's talking about. You can have all sorts of things you want to say,
Mm-hmm.
And I will look at myself and say, you look fantastic, kid. And sometimes I'll say, you may not be as tight and taut as you used to be, but you're fabulous. You're absolutely wonderful.
Yes.
We want to be our own cheerleader. We want the things that we say to ourselves support us and love us and make us feel good or make us feel silly. You're a hot potato. It just make ourselves giggle, make it easier.
Yes.
Make life wonderful.
Years ago, I remember I was having a conversation with Debbie Ford, who's another wonderful author, and I said to her, sometimes I wish when I'm up on stage and I'm speaking that I felt freer. She said, what do you mean? I said, well, I feel like there's a part of me that I don't express fully because I'm afraid of what other people might think, or I'm too concerned with what the audience thinks. And she said to me, that's funny. Actually, you're not concerned with what the audience thinks. What you're concerned with is what you think. She said, what that tells me is, chances are when you get off stage, you start replaying in your mind all of the things you said that you think you shouldn't have said, or the mistakes that you made. And she said, until you know that you have your own back, you'll never be able to be fully yourself in the world. And that was an amazing moment for me. And then when we added Louise's mirror work, this is what happens. When you build a relationship with yourself using the mirror, you become far less afraid in the world. You know that regardless of what, I remember one time, she's talking to herself right now in the mirror. I want to know what you're saying. I remember one time in the States, I was doing the Oprah Winfrey show. I was on the show. And we took a break, and during the break, Oprah and I were talking about something. And when we came back on, when the show went live again, Oprah turned to me and said, Cheryl, tell the audience what you were just saying during the break. That piece was really important. And I went like this. And in that moment, I'm thinking, I can't remember what I was saying. That was so brilliant.
No,
I mean, I just
because
lost
you're
my
in the
train of
now.
thought. Because I was in the now, which you really are when you're on television or when you're up on stage. I was in the now. And fortunately, she was wonderful. She said, oh, let me tell you what she said. And she picked right up and covered my behind. But I remember that day when I walked off the set, that having built a strong relationship with myself, I walked off the set and said, girl, I got your back. You were fantastic. Instead of, oh, I can't believe that you lost your train of thought and went blank in front of millions of people. Like, that's what I would have done before, but this time it was, no, 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 no. You were great. And that's what the mirror work
Yes,
does.
I've learned to make, mistakes teaching lessons. I remember once being in Scandinavia, and I was speaking in Sweden, and I had the terror of my life. I occasionally get what I call a sensitive throat, and I can go into a coughing fit that would scare everyone in the room. So when that happens, I get out of the room as fast as I can, or I get away from things. And I'm talking to an audience larger than this, and I feel my throat strangle. And I'm about to have my coughing fit. And I couldn't stop it in time. I had to go into it, but I got off as soon as I could. And then when I came back, when I could finally speak again, I used it as a lesson. And I said to him, this is the terror of my life. And I've done it in front of you, and I'm alive. And, and just because we're a teacher doesn't mean we're immune from things. Doesn't mean we have our own demons, that we are not clever enough or willing enough to really release. We all have that. You mustn't think we're perfect or we never have a problem. But I just want to say one other thing about mirrors. Went long, long, long time ago when I used to do private sessions. I started with a mirror, and after a man once picked up that mirror when I had him to look at himself, and he flung it across the room and broke it. I thought, oh dear. So I went out and I got a dressing mirror, a door mirror. I got a door mirror, and I put it against a wall, and I had a big box of Kleenex. And somewhere in that session, I would say, let's go to the mirror. And we would go and sit down on the floor in front of the mirror, because it's hard to get up. That's the whole reason I had it there. But I had the big mirror and lots of Kleenex. And you weren't looking at yourself in this, you were looking at yourself whole. And and it's not only just saying you love yourself, but do your affirmations in front of a mirror. Do forgiveness in front of a mirror. If you have somebody you need to forgive, do it in front of a mirror. And get yourself if you have a big mirror, sit down in front of it, because you won't run away. You can't. It's too hard to get up and move. And you can sit there and you can cry, but you'll go through it, whatever it is, and it'll be fast. And once I put that mirror on the floor, it was amazing the results I got with people. When I first started working with people individually, we'd work with your health, we'd work with your money, we'd work with your relationships, we'd work with your creativity or lack of it. And then one day I discovered that if I could get you to work in the mirror and start working on loving yourself, we didn't have to work on the other shit. Because this was the central issue. The central issue is always that there's a part of ourselves that doesn't love who we are. We don't feel that we're worthy. If I asked a show of hands of how many people in this room really believe they're not good enough, half the hands would go up. Because there's a message within almost all of us that comes from early childhood, even if you had good parents, comes from early childhood that says, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to have this or be this or feel good or whatever the issue is. And when we can go through that, then we start to work the miracles in our lives. And I know that the people who have been with me a long time and have done mirror work for some time have made enormous changes in their lives. And that's one of the things that about this book, we haven't even talked about the book yet, that I love is that it's simple and easy to read. But if you practice what is in the book, it will work miracles. And I love the idea that, you know, it's not a religious book, it just touches that part of you. And what we're trying to do here, and this is part of it, is bring awareness to you so that you can start to be aware of what you are doing to yourself in every given moment. That you start thinking, what am I saying right now? How do I feel right now? Do I feel good? Am I worried? Am I beating myself up? What's going on? Because if you don't have the awareness of what's going on, you cannot change it. But once you have the awareness of what's going on in you and you start seeing how your patterns are, what is the pattern that I do throughout the day over and over again, then you can begin to change it. But you have to see it first. So the mirror, as small as this may be, can really help you connect with yourself. You know, I also think looking in the mirror and saying, how can I make you happy? What can I do to make you happy today? It's a simple thing, but what can you do to make yourself happy today in this moment? And it's a way of thinking, not what's wrong with you. Oh, you know, you're always doing that and you never get this and all that stuff, but what could I do today to make you happy? And, you know, you may not get an answer for a bit, but if you keep asking the question, you'll get an answer.
You know, in all of the, when Louise said the thing about so many people walk around with this belief inside that they're not worthy, this is the answer to turning that around. It's really that simple. The challenge is that most people just don't do it consistently.
And especially if you do it the first time and it feels awkward.
Yes.
And you think, oh my God, this is stupid. Well, that's an affirmation too.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I would say that every human being I've ever worked with, anyone I've ever spoken to in a workshop or at a retreat, on some level, I think as human beings, we all want to be seen and we want to be heard. And a lot of us, regardless of our age, believe, and as did I, believe that ultimately we want to be seen and heard by mom and dad. And I think that that's true to a certain extent. But what you realize when you start to do mirror work is that when you're seen and heard by you, your whole world changes. When you're willing to challenge yourself to go beyond the awkwardness or the feelings of insincerity or the discomfort, you know, that I felt in the beginning, because I felt like every time I looked in a mirror, it was an uncomfortable experience because I was focused on, I had been trained to focus, I trained my mind to focus on what I didn't like. You can train your mind to focus on what you do like. And I've never met a person who didn't look deeply into their eyes and not like what they say. If you really are present to your own eyes. So you have a head start. You all have the little mirror. And I think we should just do it a little bit more, don't you?
Yes, yes. So let's just do a round of I love you, I really
Yes.
love you. So you packed your mirror away, now you have to get it out. Just put it in your bra. It's very handy there.
What if you're not wearing a bra?
Well, then you improvise.
I mean, I am, but just if you weren't, you know.
Well, your mirror's a little big. I've got this baby mirror, you know.
I know.
But you know, this is great because you can carry this with you
Yes.
everywhere. You can tuck it on your desk. People will hardly notice it. I love you. I really, really love you. Let's say it out loud, Cheryl.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love you, Cheryl.
I
I
really,
really, really
really
love you.
love you. You're the cutest thing I ever saw.
You're the cutest thing I ever saw.
It's such good fun to be friends with you.
It's such good fun to be friends with you.
I really like you.
I really like you.
And I'm learning to love you.
And I'm learning to love you.
Pretty soon I really will really love you.
Pretty soon, I really will love you.
All is well.
All is well.
You've been with me all your life,
You've been with me all your life.
and you're a pretty terrific person.
And you're a pretty terrific person.
What can we do to make ourselves happy now?
What can we do to make ourselves happy now?
You know? What one habit could we let go of?
What one habit could we let go of?
What would we like our next step to be?
What would we like our next step to be?
I love you. I really love you.
I love you. I really love you.
Whatever the issue, we can work through it.
Whatever the issue, we can work through.
And remember, life loves you.
And remember, life loves you.
Life loves you, and so do I.
Life loves you, and so do I.
You're cute.
You're cute. So I'm curious, how many of you actually felt something? Yes. You know what I mean when I say that? Yes, right?
It sort of got in there, or started to come out as you kept doing it.
Yes.
You know, and you can say, if I really love you, it frightens the hell out of you, work around it. But that's your goal. That's your goal.
Yeah. Good job. We're going to do that throughout the weekend. Every now and then we're going to mirror
Be
break.
mirror time.
So keep that mirror handy.
And if you're really stubborn, I'll come and work the mirror with
Yes.
you. You can get an affirmation buddy.
Yes.
You know? It'd be wonderful to do.
I love that idea.
Teach each other what you're doing.
We have a whole list, like I love Louise, remember we talked about, we have a whole list of affirmations that we use throughout the book, but then we compiled them all at the end of the book, which is fantastic.
So they're easy to find when you need them.
Yes. And, oh yeah.
It's
sorry.
called Conversations with Cheryl and Louise.
Well, the title is You Can Create an Exceptional Life, but she likes that title better because she's right.
it is a conversation.
It is a
between-
conversation with us.
I always say, make a cup of tea, sit down, come into the parlor, and listen to us talk.
Yes. And that's exactly how I wrote it. I wrote it as if you were with us, enjoying a conversation.
This was the best collaboration. I talked and she did all the writing. Which she loves doing.
I
She
do.
wasn't suffering.
No, I wasn't suffering. I mean, really, you know, I got to hang out with Louise Hay in private conversations. It was so hard. And then I got to, you know, transcribe our conversations and think about how it affected my life and write about what I was learning from her. And it was interesting because, you know, when we were working on the book, you know, I've been doing this work for a long time, so I knew that the book would reflect, it would be great for people who had been on this path, it would take it deeper because I was being taken deeper by Louise. But then also, as I was going along, I realized we want this book to speak to people who are just brand new on the path. Or, you know, a book that would be a wonderful resource for a friend who's going through a hard time, who might be open to looking at how their own thinking affects their life. And sure enough, once the book came out, people started saying, I'm getting one for me and I'm getting one for my friend and we're doing this work together, or I'm going to get one for my husband and just leave it by the bed.
Don't push it, just leave
Yeah,
it.
don't push it. I learned that from Louise. Don't push people. It doesn't work. But I wanted to just say, for example, these were some of the, Louise had some great affirmations we talked about that you just say throughout the day, and I really have incorporated these into my life. Things like, I love my life. Right, Nancy? How many times do we, sometimes Nancy and I will look at each other and we'll go, this is our life. We love our lives.
How did
Right?
we get here?
How did we get
Wow.
here? Really, I love my life. I love this day. If you were affirming that all day long, you would be loving your day. Life loves me, mainstay affirmation. I love it when the sun shines. And haven't you all been loving the sunshine here? My goodness.
I brought it. I have a special relationship with England. When I arrive, the sun shines.
Just beautiful. What did she say? Oh, no. No. Just pretend we're here for a long time. It's wonderful to feel the love in my heart. Everything I do brings me joy. Really. If your thoughts are creating your future, everything I do brings me joy is a wonderful thing to be creating. Changing my thoughts is easy and comfortable. It's a joy to speak to myself in kind and loving ways. That's an important one, too. This is a glorious day, and every experience is a joyous adventure. And I love only good lies before me.
I've had that for a long time.
Yes.
So I don't have to worry about the future because only good lies before me. It has to be good.
Yeah.
It's my belief system.
Yes.
Yes. I always get along with my neighbors. I have wonderful relationships with all my neighbors. I always have a good landlord. See, and if you make affirmations like that, they work for the rest of your life. I'm always loved and respected. You know, you want to create a series of affirmations that will work for the rest of your life. I prosper wherever I turn. My income is constantly increasing. I've used those for years. You know, you might start out with that, and next day you get a tuppence more, depending on where you're starting from. But you want to have belief systems that support you in your life, the things you believe about yourself, and just create them as affirmations and just have them be your relationship. You know, I always work with and for people I love, doing things that inspire me and earning a good income. You can make, you know, what is it you want your work life to be? What do you want your home life to be? What is the relationship you want with your children? Are you one of those people that constantly talks about what a picky eater your kids are? You're really settling that in hard and firm. But I would change that to my kids love to try new foods. And my husband is easy to feed. Wouldn't that be great?
I love one of my prosperity affirmations, Nancy and I were talking about that, is every time I turn around, I get another check in the mail. And you know what? I would go to the post office and I would get another check in the mail. I just would say it over and over again. Or abundance flows into my life in surprising and miraculous ways every day.
What is it Daniel says, our friend? Life luxuriously supplies all my needs.
Yes.
Luxurious living. You know, life.
Yes.
Yes. Not just, you know, provides for my needs, but luxuriously provides for my needs.
Yes. Were you guys, go ahead.
You were talking about when you stopped, you had something to do with speaking the other day.
Oh.
Yes. And I just want to give a little, and the first time I spoke in public, I was like anybody else, you know, it was a new experience and I didn't know really what I was doing. But I got up and I did my hour of whatever I had to do. And I remember when I got down from the podium, I said, Louise, you were fantastic. You were absolutely incredible. You were superb. This was your first time and you were just wonderful. I'm so proud of you. And, you know, and that by the time you've done this 6 times, you're going to be a pro. What I did not say to myself was, oh my God, you're awful. You forgot this. You didn't say that. Oh, you know, I don't think I didn't do any of that because I knew that the second time I got on stage, I would have been terrified if I had done that to myself. Now, so I built myself up as I came down. It was I was the cheerleader for me. And then later in the day, I talked about, well, we could improve this, or next time let's try this, or, you know, let's make notes so it's easier to do. I did that. But the second time was okay because I knew I was okay, and I wasn't going to beat myself up. But you can transfer this reaction to anything you do in life. How many times do you do something for the first time, and because it's not perfect, you start telling yourself all the wrong things you did and how you weren't good enough, and you'll never be able to do this because obviously you weren't perfect the first time. Be there for yourself. You treat yourself like you're this little kid who needs a pep talk, a loving pep talk. You know? And then it gets easier and easier. Because if you repeat doing something, it's going to get better. It has to get better. But be loving. What is it you said? You were writing an affirmation about creative people working with creative people.
Oh, remember I talked about the morning, this is a great example of the power of affirmations. Remember how I talked about my morning ritual of getting up, making a cup of tea, sitting with my cat, and writing a page of spontaneous affirmations, and how many of them I began to see patterns and themes. And one of the themes was an affirmation that went something like, I work in creative collaboration with people I respect and admire who are committed to helping heal the world. I said it much better than that. It's in the book in a much better way, but that was the general affirmation. Now, at the time that I was affirming that, I was pretty much a lone ranger. You know, I was somebody who liked to be in charge. I'm a bossy lady.
Me too.
But I was feeling in my heart the loneliness of doing things alone. And I wanted to be able to creatively collaborate with someone. Now, never in a million years did I know that life had Louise Hay in store for me. I just kept writing it. Every day I would write it. It was one of my mainstay affirmations. And then when Reed Tracy came to me over a year ago and said, I've been thinking about your next book, and I'm wondering, you know, what you'd think about writing a book with Louise. And I looked at him and I said, Louise Hay? And he started to laugh and he said, well, what other Louise would I be talking about? And I remember in that moment thinking, 22 years ago, I picked Louise up at the airport when I was a volunteer for an organization that put on events like this. And Louise had just written You Can Heal Your Life. I had read the book. It had changed my life. It really had gotten me on the path of awakening. I loved that she shared her own story and that it was also very practical. And suddenly I was being invited to go to the airport to pick her up. And in that moment when Reed said, what would you think about writing a book with Louise? I thought, never in a million years could I have imagined what life had in store for me.
Yes, but look at the affirmation you wrote. And
Yes.
you turned it over to the universe.
That's
and
right.
the universe said, okay, we'll do it. Here, this is what's going
And
to
you
be.
know, that's the other important thing I've learned from you, Louise. You know, right now we're just having a conversation. The other thing that's so important is you create an intention, you write an affirmation, you put it out, and then as the controlling gal that I used to be, did you like that catch? You let it go. I used to write an affirmation and then work hard to figure out how to make that affirmation come true. Has anyone done that? Yes.
We're not as bright as the universe. Turn it over to a big mind.
Yes.
Turn it over to a big mind.
Really, I mean, especially in the last year, I would say that's what I'm really, really getting, is that you create an affirmation, life always has better plans for you. Life loves you. And when you turn it over, and I love it even you talk about in solving a problem, you affirm what you want to have happen, and then trust that life will figure out the rest. You don't have to figure it out, just hold the affirmation in mind.
That's why I love the affirmation so much. You know, all is well, everything is working out for my highest good or our highest good. Only out of this situation, only good will come, and I am safe.
Yes.
Because what you're saying is there is a solution and it will happen, but I don't have to figure it out right now. That's overwhelming for me. So let me turn it over to people or life or whatever, the universe, who can figure it out much quicker than I can and in a much nicer way. You know, isn't it wonderful when solutions come into your life that you hadn't dreamed of and suddenly they're there and you think, oh my God, isn't this wonderful? And I hope when that happens that you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, life.
Yes.
Yes.
Something you just said, the affirmation, all is well, everything is happening, everything that's happening supports my highest good. I use that affirmation especially, I mean, I use it personally, but whenever I hear from people who may know nothing about affirmations, may have never read a self-help book, but they're going through some difficulty in their life, I've found that when I email back that affirmation and I say to them, the prescription is, say this 300 times today, they always just say, thank you very, like they're so comforted by that affirmation, and it doesn't matter whether they believe it or not, they adopt it and they start using it right away.
See, we don't want to dwell on the problem. We want to go for the solution.
Yes.
Even if we don't know what it is. But there is a solution. There's always a solution. Miracles happen all the time.